explorers, I'm Katie Staples, your adventure podcast hostess with the mostest. Join me for travel stories, tips, and tricks to help you explore and make unforgettable memories. Follow along on Instagram at the.great.escape.podcast and subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can be the first to hear new tips. Today, we are going underground. No, not like your parents' basement apartment underground. I'm talking Carlsbad Caverns National Park in New Mexico. I visited in June 2023 with my trusty adventure pup, Molly, though, spoiler alert, dogs aren't allowed in the caves, so she had to sit this one out while I went spelunking. Picture this. You're standing in the desert, it's hot, the sun is blazing, and suddenly, boom, there's a gigantic hole in the ground leading to a world of stalactites, stalagmites, and rooms so massive they could host a Taylor Swift concert. That's Carlsbad Caverns, and honestly, it feels like stepping into another planet. Carlsbad Caverns was first made famous in the early 1900s when a 16-year-old cowboy named Jim White decided to follow what he thought was smoke coming from the desert. Turns out it wasn't smoke, it was bats. Thousands upon thousands of Brazilian free-tailed bats flying out of the cave at sunset, which, side note, is still one of the coolest things you can see at the park today. Jim was like, okay, let me grab a ladder and see what's down there. Can we just pause and give props to the bravery or insanity of a teenager deciding to climb into a giant hole in the earth with zero idea what's waiting inside? If it were me, I'd be like, yeah, hard pass. But thanks to him, we discovered one of the most epic cave systems in the world. By 1930, Carlsbad Caverns was officially a national park. Fun fact, there are 119 caves in the park, many still being explored and mapped today. So I've mentioned before that my dog Molly and I went on a 60-day RV road trip out west. And after driving across Texas, we crossed into New Mexico, which was my first visit there. This area is quite remote. You're almost 5 hours from Albuquerque, almost 7 hours from Fort Worth, and 2.5 hours from the U.S.-Mexico border in El Paso. This was just a quick day trip for me and Molly on our way to Guadalupe Mountains Park a few hours away. You can spend a couple hours to a few days at Carlsbad Cavern National Park. We spent the night before in Brantley Lake State Park, about 45 minutes north. I made sure to get to Carlsbad Caverns early. We entered around 8 a.m. There is plenty of parking at the visitor center and the main cave entrance for cars, and yet very little for RVs and larger vehicles. Plus, like I said, dogs aren't allowed in the caverns, so I had 3 choices. 1, leave Molly at home. No, we're like 5 states away at this point. 2, board her in the park kennel. The visitor center does have a dog kennel where you can board your dogs for a few hours. I think it's a great option for those with crate-trained dogs, which mine is not. And option 3 was to leave Molly in the RV. Now, please know, my dogs are like my children. I would never put them in a dangerous situation. So don't come at me for saying I left her in the RV. If I only had a car or my truck with me out there, there's no way I would have left her in the vehicle. It was about mid-70s when I parked that morning, and the RV stays very comfortable even into the mid-80s. So I left all the windows open for a cross breeze and had plenty of water out for her. She was totally fine for the 2.5 hours that I was gone. That being said, it would have been too hot even in the RV if it were in the afternoon. The average high in June in Carlsbad Caverns is 90 degrees, and that's not including the heat index with the desert sun beating down on you. The January low is actually 32 degrees, by the way, so a huge range in temperatures throughout the year. Okay, so Molly's secure and I go inside to buy my ticket in. If you have the America the Beautiful pass, you're in for free. Otherwise, it's $15. And either way, you still pay $1 to enter the cave. The park elevation varies from 3,600 feet to 6,300 feet plus above ground. Most of the fun is found 750 feet below the surface, and there's 2 ways to get there. Take the elevator down 750 feet, which is 67 stories and takes a few minutes, or you can walk down about 1.25 miles. A lot of people choose to walk down into the cavern. They do the loop around on the inside and they take the elevator back up. That's super simple and it's a great way to see everything without really tiring yourself out. Well, I decided to take the elevator down to save some time since Molly was in the RV and I didn't know how long the whole adventure would take. It's about 56 degrees inside the cavern, so it's chilly. And it was the coolest stuff to walk around. This was my first national park in several years, and it was definitely my first one going underground. So I was pretty amazed the whole time. The big room loop is 1.25 miles and it's perfectly lit for photos, yet still dark enough and quiet enough to feel kind of spooky when you're in parts by yourself. There's no noise down there when another human being isn't around. Now let's talk about the star of the show inside Carlsbad Caverns, the big room. And no, that's not just a clever name. It's literally big. We're talking the largest cave chamber in North America. If you drop the Empire State Building in there, it would fit. So yeah, it's not just big. It's call your ex and brag big. Inside the big room, you're surrounded by a forest of stalagmites and stalactites, which, if you're like me, you always mix up. So here's a little way to remember. Stalagmites with a G is for the ground. They grow up from the ground. Stalactites with a C come from the ceiling and grow down from there. Boom, cave science made easy. Walking through, it honestly feels like nature's art gallery. You've got formations with names like the Chandelier, the Hall of Giants, and my personal favorite, the Rock of Ages, which definitely makes me want to burst into a little Def Leppard every time I hear it. Now, the cool thing is these formations weren't made overnight. We're talking millions of years of water dripping, drop by drop, leaving behind minerals that slowly built these massive sculptures. Like, talk about slow and steady winning the race. If stalagmites had a motto, it would be patience, darling, patience. The whole loop around the big room is a little under a mile and a half, and the vibe is honestly otherworldly. Some spots feel like you're on another planet, or maybe wandering through the set of a sci-fi movie. And either way, it's unforgettable, and it makes you feel very small in the best possible way. Okay, so here's the only sad thing I saw at the park, and it still hurts my heart to this day. A lot of the national parks I've visited had much older visitors, some using canes or motorized wheelchairs. And I think it's incredible that these people, despite their age or their mobility, are seeing all these amazing places. However, the path down in the cave isn't conducive to everyone. The whole path is paved and most of it has handrails, yet there's a large section that is too narrow or has too intense of a slope that it's closed to wheelchairs. And I saw this older gentleman on a scooter who had to turn back and he couldn't see the entire loop because of this. That one moment is a huge reason I started this podcast. My goal is to inspire people to get out and see all the things and experience all the fun, visit all the places while you're still able. Stop saying, oh, I'll do that one day. Will it be one day or will today be day one? Because you're not promised the health or the mobility or even the life to do it one day. Stop all the work, just to finally then retire one day. Life is about work and play and work and play. That one moment where I saw the gentleman turn around and not be able to complete the path reminded me that we have one life and you must live it to the fullest while you can. So, okay, then it was time to head back out of the cave. And since I wasn't too pressed for time, something in me decided not to take the elevator back up. And instead, I hiked the 1.25 miles and almost 800 foot at this point ascent. Wow, is that a workout? Apparently, I was the only person crazy enough to do that all morning. I passed a lot of people walking down who said, wow, good for you. And I'm not going to lie, that did make me feel pretty good. Now, at the top is a big opening where you see birds and bats flying in and out. That top bit is where most of the bats live. And where a bat is, guano is. Guano, if you're not familiar, is bat poop. And that guano smell was not appreciated while I was huffing and puffing from the climb out. So, speaking of bats, the national park also has the Bat Flight program. Every evening in the summer, thousands of bats swirl out of the cave entrance in this hypnotic cloud. It's equal parts creepy and magical, like Halloween meets Cirque du Soleil. And if you're feeling extra adventurous, they also offer ranger led tours into some of the more hidden wild caves. Helmet and headlamp required because, safety, and they do require advanced reservations as well. The ranger-led tours are the King's Palace tour and the Lower Cave tour. King's Palace is about a mile long and will take 90 minutes. It's rated moderately strenuous and only available for those 6 years old and up. The Lower Cave tour is currently not running as of August 2025 due to staffing issues. When it is available, it's also about a mile long and takes 2 hours. It's open for those 12 and up due to it being rated difficult and requiring some rope rappelling down into the cave and crawling through tight spaces. You must wear hiking boots on this tour. So if you're planning a trip to New Mexico, Carlsbad Caverns is a must. Just remember, no dogs in the caves, so plan accordingly if you're traveling with your furry BFF. But above ground, there's some pet-friendly trails to enjoy too. All right, explorers, that's your underground adventure for today. Hey, if you've ever been to Carlsbad Caverns or if it's on your bucket list, slide into my DMs on Instagram at the.great.escape.podcast and tell me all about it. And don't forget to hit subscribe so that you can follow along and dream big for your journeys on the Great Escape. Keep adventuring, whether it's above ground, below ground, or somewhere in between. See you next time, adventurers.